Hello, all praise to Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So this is a direct continuation on from the last video. I haven't even moved from the spot where I'm sitting. So yeah, I was talking about the beast and such. Watch the last video first before watching this one. So Deuteronomy 4, just going to do a bit of background. Take heed unto yourselves, lest ye forget the covenant of the Lord your God, which he made with you, and make you a graven image or the likeness of anything which the Lord thy God hath forbidden thee. For the Lord thy God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. So don't make graven images, don't worship other gods. God is a consuming fire, even a jealous God. He doesn't want you to go whoring around with other gods. Deuteronomy 28, the whole chapter is worth reading. I'm just going to read a few excerpts from it. But it shall come to pass, this is after basically God explaining the blessings that he will bestow upon Israel if they follow in his ways, walk in his ways and follow his commandments, and the curses that he will put on them if they don't. And it is the covenant which they agreed to, Israel. And when I say Israel, it's something I don't think I've gone into much detail. Israel has been scattered amongst all of the nations of the world. And so it's pretty much impossible to know who exactly the tribes of Israel are. Because I talked about it a bit in the last video, but one of the ways that God is going to judge the world, I talked about Abraham, how God made a covenant with him and said he was going to bless those that bless him and bless his seed and curse those who curse him. And so that's the way that God is going to judge the world, I think. I think that's the way he's organized things, is that he's spread the nation of Israel amongst the entire world, and we've got this beast kingdom, this global kingdom, which is subjugating the entire world and stamping the whole thing down. So in doing so, it's, you could say that they're cursing Israel, because Israel is spread out in the entire world, so therefore the entire world is guilty of being mean to Israel, you might say. And at the same time, Israel have whored themselves out to the entire world. So the entire world is guilty and the entire world needs to be judged. And that's how God is going to justly and righteously. It's the way he's chosen to judge the world. And that's why he's going to bring all the nations to Israel, and he's going to use the nations of the world to punish Israel, and then he's going to punish the nations of the world. And that's the way I see the big picture as to what is happening. And so, am I of a tribe of Israel or am I a Gentile? It's impossible to know, I think. It's impossible to know. Same with you. It's impossible to know. Are you a Gentile or are you descended from one of the tribes of Israel? And we probably all are a bit of both at this point. We've all mingled together. Iron is mixed with the miry clay, but they won't cleave to each other. And anyway, so that's what's happening, I think. Deuteronomy 28. I'm just going to read a few bits of this. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee, and the Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish, and thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass. Interesting. Brass, the Greek kingdom. I don't know if there's an association there. And the earth that is under thee shall be iron. I don't know if there's an association there either. But I just thought it was interesting. Brass and iron, the Greek and Roman empires. So the Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust, and from heaven it shall come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways for them, and shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Removed 7 ways. So there's 7 different kingdoms in the beast. Thy carcass shall be meat for all the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. So we see in Revelation, I don't have the verse in front of me, but just the bit where it talks about the great supper of God, and all the beasts, the beasts of the earth and the fowls of the air come to feast on the great supper of God. Yeah, I'll put that on the screen. And then Ezekiel 16, another bit before we get back into the beast stuff. Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord God, because thy filthiness was poured out, and thy nakedness discovered through thy whoredoms with thy lovers, and with all the idols of thy abominations, and by the blood of thy children, which thou didst give unto them. Behold, therefore I will gather all thy lovers, with whom thou hast taken pleasure, and all them that thou hast loved, with all them that thou hast hated, and I will even gather them round about against thee, and I will discover thy nakedness unto them. And thou shalt see all thy nakedness, and I will judge thee, as a woman that brake wedlock and shed blood are judged. And I will give thee blood in fury and jealousy, and will also give thee into their hand, and they shall throw down thine eminent place, and shall break down thy high places. They shall strip thee also of thy clothes, and they shall take thy fair jewels, and leave thee naked and bare. They shall also bring up a company against thee, and they shall stone thee with stones, and thrust thee through with their swords. And they shall burn thy houses with fire, and execute judgments upon thee in the sight of many women. And I will cause thee to cease from playing the harlot, and thou shalt give no hire any more. So that's basically what I was saying. What I was saying, because I've read it in the Word of God, and that's what he's saying. We're all guilty. None are righteous, no, not one. What's the difference between the Jew and the Gentile? No, we're all guilty before God. We're all guilty. The nation of Israel has been divided up and split to the four corners of the earth, mixed in amongst all the nations. And so the great whore, which Israel, has whored herself out and ridden on the beast, ridden on Satan's kingdoms of the world. Satan is the prince of this world. And so God's going to judge the whore, and at the same time he's going to judge the beast. So that's what's happening. That's the big picture, is what's happening, I think. And so a bit more in Isaiah 10. This is about the Assyrian. So I talked about how the Assyrian Empire is one of the beast empires. So, O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. I will send him against an hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath I will give him a charge, to take spoil, and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. Verse 24. Therefore thus saith the Lord God of hosts, O my people that dwellest in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee, after the manner of Egypt. So that's the Assyrian. Some people say the Assyrian is the Antichrist. And yes, I think the Assyrian is part of the beast system, and I think that, God's going to bring the beast against Israel, so the Assyrian would be part of that. Isaiah 14, and the Lord of hosts hath sworn, saying, Surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand, that I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him under foot. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth. This is the hand that is stretched out upon all nations. For the Lord of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul it? His hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? So there we see an example of the Assyrian, God using, O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. He's going to bring the Assyrian against, O my people, he's going to bring the Assyrian against his people, against Israel. Then he's going to punish the Assyrian, basically, because there's other bits in the Bible where it talks about, I think it talks about Satan, not letting the prisoners go, and not opening up the house of the prisoners, but basically, so they've got the beast system, the beast empires of the world, in which Israel have been scattered, and so Israel sort of, you could say, are the prisoners in the beast. The beast has imprisoned them and is subjugating them/us in the nations of the world. And so that's sort of, I'm starting to see the Bible, and I hope it's sort of starting to become clear to you as well, as the big picture of what's going on. And I think by studying the whole Bible, you start to get the big picture. So the Lernaean Hydra, I thought this was interesting. The Lernaean Hydra, or Hydra of Lerna, it's a Greek thing, is more often known simply as the Hydra, is a serpentine water monster in Greek and Roman mythology. So as far as serpents and water monsters, it's also worth reading. I think it's Job 41 about Leviathan. It's either 40 or 41. I'll put it on. I'll put an excerpt briefly on the screen. Just worth reading that as well. Its lair was the lake of Lerna in the Argolid, which was also the site of the Danaedes. Lerna was reputed to be an entrance to the underworld. So we've got this serpent thing, this water monster, which was reputed to be the entrance to the underworld. Interesting. And archaeology has established it is a sacred site older than the Mycenaean Argos. In the canonical Hydra myth, the monster is killed by Hercules, as the second of his 12 labours. According to Hesiod, the Hydra was the offspring of Typhon and Echidna. It had poisonous breath and blood so virulent even its scent was deadly. So poisonous breath reminds me a little bit of their throat is an open sepulchre, their tongues they have used deceit, and the poison of asps is under their lips. Satan, the father of lies, breathes poison. And blood so virulent, even its scent was deadly. So we know in Leviticus 17, verse 4, for it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is the life thereof. You shall not eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth shall be cut off. So the blood in this Hydra is deadly poison, basically. It's so deadly that even smelling the blood of this python is deadly. I thought that was interesting. The life of it is death, you might say. The Hydra possessed many heads, the exact number of which varies according to the source. Later versions of the Hydra story add a regeneration feature to the monster. For every head chopped off, the Hydra would regrow 2 heads. Heracles required the assistance of his nephew Iolaus to cut off all the monster's heads and burn the neck using sword and fire. So I thought that was interesting because we've got this, the dragon, the 7-headed dragon, the dragon, the beast. The dragon is the beast, the 7 heads, and you've got these kingdoms that, the first kingdom gets destroyed. That would be the Egyptian kingdom gets destroyed, but then the next one comes up. You've got the Syrian, the Babylonian, and as you read through the Bible, you see that God destroys these kingdoms. I mean, that Nineveh, the Assyrian city, it doesn't exist anymore. The Syrian capital city was destroyed by God, and Babylon is destroyed. It doesn't exist anymore. And so these heads of the Hydra, these heads of the beast, you might say, rise up, and then the only way to destroy them is by fire. But then they got this regenerating beast, this many-headed serpent, regenerating beast. I thought it was interesting. And that's similar to the Naga. In Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, the Naga, or Nagi, are divine, semi-divine deities, or a semi-divine race of half-human, half-serpent beings that reside in the netherworld and can occasionally take human form. And if you look at some of the pictures there, I think some of the pictures are interesting, and you've got, obviously the serpent heads, and these things with the serpent heads, and on some of these things it's the 7 heads of the serpent, and the Kalia is another thing. Hindu traditions was the poisonous Naga living in the Yamuna river. The water of the Yamuna for 4 leagues all around him boiled and bubbled with poison. We see the picture there. And there's another thing as well. Maybe I'll get to it later. There's another thing I'll get to. I guess I can do it now. Do you want it now or later? I'll do it later. I'll break up some of the Bible stuff with some more mythology, pagan mythology. Anyway, some interesting stuff there. So we go back to Revelation 13, and I stood on the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. So the sea, it says in the Bible, the sea is the nations and peoples of the earth. So this beast rising out of the nations and peoples, having 7 heads and 7 kingdoms of the earth, 10 horns being the 10 kingdoms. Upon his horns 10 crowns. On his heads the name of blasphemy. So we've got these 10 kingdoms that are going to rise. That'll be the Antichrist system, I'm postulating. The beast I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth is the mouth of a lion. His dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And so we've got this beast. It's got elements of the leopard, elements of the bear, elements of the lion. The leopard is the Greek, like Apollyon, and like the Greek system of thinking. You might even say science, so it comes from the Greeks. The feet of a bear, so you could say that's Islam. You could say it's the Medo-Persian, or that's the Assyrian, or it's the Iranian, or it's Islam, perhaps you might say. So, and mouth of a lion, well, the lion would be the Babylonian. So we've got I've talked a lot about the Freemasons and the Babylonian mystery religions and that type of thing. So it's speaking as in this mystery religion type way, and it's associated with QAnon as well. And one of the points that I haven't made strongly yet is that if it is the case, so like that, if, just to throw out a potential here, if it is the case that Trump is the head of this new kingdom that's going to rise up, which you could say is this new technological kingdom, and you could argue that QAnon is the false prophet if that's the case, and that it sort of fits. I've been reluctant to say definitely. Like there are other people on YouTube who say definitely the Antichrist is Obama, or it's Prince Harry or something, or Trump. The people who say this, I don't think you can say definitively what's going on yet, because there's something that's going to happen, and it says in Second Thessalonians chapter 2, about there's going to be a falling away, and then the wicked one will be revealed, the son of perdition. And it's possible that Trump is this first beast, or this beast that's being described here in Revelation 13. It does make sense, and it fits in a lot of ways, and we talk about the image of the beast and the number of his name and all that. And as far as people who are currently existing in the world, like, can you imagine Trump having his name on something? Everybody like Trump forcing you to have his name on your head or on your forehead or on your hand, and having a golden image, a statue to Trump, and an image to the beast, an image to Trump. You might say a talking Trump statue, and he builds his ostentatious palace in Jerusalem, on Mount Zion, and he says declaring himself God. I mean, as far as somebody in the world who I could imagine, fitting all these things, Trump is certainly somebody who fits these things. I could see him being the one, and I could see QAnon definitely being the false prophet. It makes sense to me, and it all fits, but I'm hesitant to say definitely that it is, because it might not be. There might be something else that's going to happen. I mean, I don't know for certain, but we'll know when it happens. But he fits. I saw one of its heads that was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So the deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So that could be Babylon. I don't know. Because if you've got, if it's the beast, we've got the leopard. Well, the leopard, if that's the Greek, well, that's still a Greek empire, you could say. There's still aspects of the Greek empire around. The bear, well, that's still around. Iran is still around, and the Islam's still around. So, but then Babylon. Does Babylon still exist? Well, no. And they've got the great whore, the whore of Babylon. So you could say that perhaps this head that the deadly wound was healed, perhaps that is Babylon. Who knows? And I've talked about that before, how it's been difficult to identify certain aspects of these prophecies, but I don't know. Anyway, they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. The dragon would be Satan, and they worship the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" And because it says in Daniel, I think it might be Daniel 11, there was the king that's going to rise up is going to be the god of forces. And I initially thought the god of forces meant the god of the forces of nature. I thought that's what it was referring to, and that would mean like a scientific kingdom and technological kingdom, which makes sense to me. But then I looked up the word, and it means god of forces as in armies and that type of thing. And if you think about America, and think about Trump being the head of America, I mean, the biggest army that's ever existed and the most powerful military in the world. They have military bases all over the world. That would be the American Empire. So, and Apollyon would be the god of war, like associated with Alexander the Great, the greatest conqueror who ever lived, who's still admired, worshipped, you might say, today, and respected by the Freemasons, and a Greek Roman god of the sun. So that the god of forces, the god of the army. And we've got Donald Trump with his golden hair and his apartment. I'll put a picture on the screen. Apartment with, in Trump Tower. The Trump Tower has the elements of 666 in it as well. And with just the shape of the Trump. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but, he's got like the chandelier on the roof of his place, and he's got the chariots and like Apollo on his roof, and he's got all the gold everywhere, and he's got the Masonic symbology and all this stuff. Like it makes sense. It makes sense that Trump is the Antichrist, or one of the beasts, let's say, and that Apollyon is. I don't exactly know which form where all this is going to manifest, but a lot of pieces are in existence here. I just don't know how they're entirely fitting together, but it's very interesting. So, Daniel 7, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions upon his bed, visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. And I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So you could argue that if that's the Babylonian aspect of it, I mean, what I've seen with QAnon and sort of the Masons and the association with Trump, and if the Babylonians are the lion and the eagle's wings. I mean, I've done a bit of stuff on eagles, but obviously America has, the eagle, the American eagle, the bald eagle, as the bald eagle, but anyway, the eagle as one of the symbols of America. So if you've got someone who speaks uses the craft will flourish by his hand. The wings plucked, and it stood lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man. I mean, a man's heart was given to you. You could say that is fitting with an American president or Trump or something like that. And behold, a second beast, like a bear, and it raised itself on one side, and had 3 ribs in its mouth, in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. And so the bear, that's associated with the Medo-Persians. The Medo-Persians was an imbalanced empire. I think it was the Persians were the more powerful. So it was on one side of the bear, was raised up, had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said unto it, Arise much and devour much flesh. And there are different theories as to what those 3 ribs are. There are some people who say it's like Lydia and Babylon brought under the Persian sway. And there's another thing here. Some of the 3 tusks curved like ribs. I meant 3 throats. Cyrus had absorbed 3 empires, the Babylonians, the Medes, and the Persians. You could say that, but I think there's also potential future fulfillment here, where it's talking about I've talked about the 10 kingdoms, and I've talked about how there's the 10 horns, and 3 of them are going to get devoured or destroyed by this beast that rises up. Well, if it is the case that the Medo-Persian Empire, or you might say, it would be centered in modern-day Iran, or perhaps the alliance between Iran and the what's it called? The Islamic nations of Islam. You could say that perhaps they are going to be the ones who destroy 3 of the kingdoms that rise up. I don't know, but that it fits there as well. And I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had on the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. And the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. So this, it fits in with Alexander the Great's empire, which, the 4 wings of a fowl, it was a quick conquering empire, and his empire split into 4. But perhaps it is also the case that this has a future fulfillment as well. Maybe there were 4 regions who are represents of the Greek regions of the world, like maybe Europe and America, and I don't know. I don't know everything. And after this I saw in night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. So iron is associated with the Romans. It devoured and brake into pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. It was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in his horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. So that bit there seems to suggest that this new kingdom that's going to come up, this 10 king kingdom, is going to exist before the Antichrist comes up. That seems to be the case. The 10 horns, and came up among them another little horn. So I don't know if that means that one of the 10 is the little horn, or it seems to imply that there's another horn coming up, so there'll be 11 horns in total, so 11 kings. and this new king will pluck up 3 of the horns by the roots. So that bit there seems to suggest that there's the new kingdom, and maybe it's the case that the 7-headed kingdom, the dragon kingdom, will take over the world and institute this new 10-horn kingdom, and that, so you might say that if it's Trump and if it's the American part of the empire, if that rises up and takes over the world, and that's the new world order, and then as a result of that 10 kings come out, you could then say the second beast, which comes up out of the earth, maybe that's Apollyon. You could say that that's perhaps that little horn there. I beheld till thrones were cast down. The thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit. The Ancient of Days, I assume, is the Father, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was like fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. It may also be Jesus. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body burned and given to the burning flame. And concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time, because the nations of the earth are still going to exist when Jesus is reigning on the earth for 1,000 years. And I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days. So I guess the Ancient of Days is the Father, and the Son of Man would be Jesus. And they brought him near before him, and there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So he's the mountain cut without hands, going to smash the beast kingdom. And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, and just a couple of other notes when we're talking about 4 beasts and things like that. It's interesting how, well, in Revelation 6 we've got the lamb. When I saw the Lamb, Jesus Christ, opening one of the seals, he's opening the seals of the scroll. Only he is worthy to open. I heard it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw and behold a white horse, and him that sat on him had a bow, and crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So that you could say that is the Antichrist. There are people who've said that is the Antichrist. You could say that is who is the conqueror, or the conqueror history associated with the empires. That's Alexander the Great, associated with Apollo. So you could say that's the beast of the Apollyon, the beast of the bottomless pit, who has the king of the locusts that come out of the bottomless pit from Revelation 9. So you could say that's what's happening there. You could say that may be the case. And then there's the second seal, and I heard the second beast, and then it goes down. It talks about the 4 horses, and the 4th of which is death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto the 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So there are the 4 horsemen coming out. That could be associated in some way with the 4 beasts. I don't know. But also in Revelation 9, it talks about saying to the 6th angel which had the trumpet, "Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates." And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the 3rd part of men. So I don't know that those 4 angels are associated with the 4 horsemen, or associated with the beast in any way. If that's something different, I don't know. I thought that was interesting as well. So then there's that one last thing which I thought was interesting, is the Padmanabhaswamy temple door. So there's a temple, Padmanabhaswamy temple. I can't remember where it is. I should have prepared. But anyway, it's this weird door that hasn't been opened, and I can't figure out how to open it. I'll put a picture on the screen. And very evil looking thing, and there's a bunch of mythology around it, and weird. Anyway, just going down to the Naga Bandham bit, I thought the picture was interesting, and if you count the number of serpents here, so just showing that this mythology, this serpent mythology, and the 7 serpents, the 7 heads of the serpent, it's a mythology that's exists around the world. It's not, and it's I think when you look at the the pagan representations of the things that are described in the Bible. It makes it a bit more real. It's not just, some weird words in a book. You can actually relate it to the history of the world. The Nagabandham. The Nagabandham is said to the power that is protecting the Chamber B, which is this door that hasn't been opened. Tourists or foreigners who have heard of this phrase will be looking at more intricate aspect of Hinduism. Nagabandham is also called a snake binding spell, a successful spell where the various serpentine deities guard the treasure of a particular place. This is also the reason why there are various snake idols worshipped in temples around the country. In fact, the deity Vishnu is often depicted riding a snake. There are also special parts of the temple dedicated to these snake deities. The worship of the snake. Weird, don't know why you'd want to worship the snake. I'll finish off with one bit from Isaiah 47, and then after I finish the video I'll put another bit from Isaiah 13. There's so much, the whole Bible is, it's all about this topic. There's, the battle between Israel and God's people and Satan's people, and the seed of the woman, the seed of Satan. In Genesis 3, read about the beginning of that. Isaiah 47, therefore hear now this, thou art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, and sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. Thou hast said in thine heart, I am, none else beside me, and none else beside me. I guess I'll just read that one last bit. Isaiah 13. And they shall be afraid, and pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them, and they shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another, their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, both cruel both with wrath and furious anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. So Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. The only way to the Father is by him. Get saved. Go get on your knees and call out to Jesus and do what's right, because God's going to punish the entire world. And I hope these last two videos have helped to understand exactly how he's doing that and what's happening, what's going on in the world. I hope this has helped you. May Jesus bless you and keep you and lead you to the truth. And I will see you again either here or up there. Bye.